டிஜிட்டல் அப்படியா எதில் வரையவா பிளெண்டர்ல பண்ணுங்க 3D பண்ணுங்க அப்புறம் வா பேச அவங்களோட நான் சொன்னது ஆரம்பிச்சே இல்லையா நல்ல ஸ்கோப் இருக்காது. Any other hidden talents in this room? Hello, am I audible? Ananya?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Oh.
sir.
Yeah. Okay, we were seeing this topic, but before that, yeah, I was asking a question. Any other talents in this room? So he's good at art. Any other talents? Abhina? Rubik's cubes. Okay. கேமரா ஹேண்டில் பண்ணுவல உனக்கு ஒரு விஷயம் சொல்லி தரவா எனக்கு ஹெல்ப் பண்ண கேமரா ஓப்பன் பண்ண லிட்ட பொறுமையாக ஓப்பன் பண்ண ஆன்டி கிளாக் வைஸ் அங்கே லெஃப்டில் வைஃபைன்னு ஒன்று இருக்கும் பாரு அதை ப்ரெஸ் பண்ண நல்லா இருக்கா பென்சில் ஆட்டா இல்லை இது ஸ்கெட்சா இது ஃபுல்லாக வரைஞ்சாடா உட்காந்து பொறுமைக்கு டேட் போட்டியா இல்லையா குட் ரொம்ப நல்லா பண்ணியிருக்கேன் வைஃபை ஆன் பண்ணியாடா என்ன நம்பர் வருது அதெல்லாம் ரொம்ப நல்லா இருக்கா எனக்கு அனுப்பு அதெல்லாம் ரிமோட் கண்ட்ரோல் மேலே இது வேறு இது வேலை செய்யாது லைட்டாக மெயில் டச் பாரு எஸ் கொடு ஐபேட் கேட்குதா என்ன டிவைஸ் கேட்குதா இல்லை எஸ் ஆர் நோக்கு மேலே என்ன இருக்கு ஐபேடுன்னு இருக்கா லெஃப்ட்ல பாரு லெஃப்ட்ல இல்லடா இல்லை ரிமோட் கண்ட்ரோல் கூட அதை நான் கனெக்ட் பண்ணிட்டேன் ஒரே நிமிஷம் தான் அது ப்ராப்ளம் இருக்குடா சரி ஒரே ஆகல இல்லை அப்படியே ஜூம் ஆயிடுச்சு சரி ஜூம் மட்டும் பண்ண அங்கேருந்து மேலே அந்த நாப் இருக்குல்ல ரைட்டுக்கு திருப்ப ஜஸ்ட் ரைட்டு பெண்ட் பண்ண அங்கே ஆமாம் அங்கே ஓகே ஐ டேக் கேர் ஹியர் நான் இங்கேருந்து பார்த்துக்கிறேன் இங்கே வருது இங்கே கண்ட்ரோல் வந்துருச்சு அதுக்காக தான் கேட்டு ஓகே மீட்டிங் 10 அந்த டோர் க்ளோஸ் பண்ணி Okay. Shall we get started? Very good. Right. So in the previous class, we discussed about this concept, right? The equation of projectile. Do you all remember what it is? So it is basically a mathematical equation which is derived to understand the relation between x coordinate and y coordinate. So without looking at your book or the board, can you tell me what that equation is? Y is equal to x tan theta, book y is equal to x tan theta minus gx square divided by 2u square cos square theta, right? So this expression is to be remembered. Okay. So one more point I wanted to stress here is, whenever you talk about this kind of a projectile motion, it is not restricted only to this chapter. You will get it in all the chapters where the projection is said to be oblique. So what is the meaning of oblique is when an object is projected at a particular angle. It can be that angle can either be with respect to horizontal or vertical. You can easily find them. Okay. So if you take an object, just vertically project it upwards, you call it as vertical motion. You project it horizontally, you call it as horizontal motion. Whereas you neither project it along y direction or x direction, you project it at a certain angle with respect to either of them, you call it as oblique projection. And that is what we discussed, no? Projectile at a certain angle with respect to the horizontal. Based on that only, we derived all the equations. The maximum height, range, time of flight and everything, right? Everywhere theta is there. No? In a similar way, this concept can also be applied. And this can be an extended concept for wherever any particle that has mass is projected oblique with respect to the x-axis or y-axis. Is that point clear? Okay. So I would suggest you to remember this. Next is, from the same equation, right? So from the same equation, y is equal to x tan theta minus gx square divided by 2u square cos square theta. What we can do is a small manipulation so that you're able to write the same equation in terms of range. Okay. So what I can do here is I can write y is equal to, if I take that x tan theta outside, right? So x tan theta taken outside, this will be 1 minus gx square divided by 2u square cos square theta. So the same thing I'm writing it. But what is that I need to compensate it with? I need to compensate with this x tan theta, because when you expand this, what will you get? You will get x tan theta minus gx square by 2u square cos square theta times x tan theta. So that term is extra. So where should I compensate it? The term is coming out extra in the numerator, so I need to compensate it in the denominator. Make sense? Right, here what is going to happen is x and x will get cancelled. Right. So this is going to be equal to x tan theta into 1 minus x into g divided by 2u square. Tell me what is tan theta into cos square theta? Tan theta into cos square theta is going to be equal to sin theta by cos theta into cos square theta. Cos theta and cos theta are gone. So what is that you're going to have? Yes. So you're going to have sin theta, cos theta. So 2 times sin theta into cos theta is going to give you sin 2 theta, right? So this will be x times tan theta into 1 minus x into, observe, I have g divided by 2u square sin theta cos theta. So 2 sin theta cos theta is sin 2 theta. This, what can I write it as? G divided by u square sin 2 theta. Make sense? Right? What is u square sin 2 theta by g? So u square sin 2 theta divided by g is going to be equal to range. Then what will g by u square sin 2 theta be? 1 by r. So it is going to be x divided by r. So the same expression, y is equal to x tan theta minus gx square by u square cos square, sorry, 2u square cos square theta can be written in terms of range as well. How do you write it? Y is equal to x tan theta, the whole multiplied with 1 minus x divided by r. This is an other expression. Okay, so how the question can be framed is, write the equation of a projectile in terms of its range. Then you need to use this. Is that point clear? Make a note of it. The next concept is, so the next concept is going to be projectile given horizontal projection. That is, till now we saw that the projectile was given a velocity at an angle theta with respect to the horizontal. Whereas in this scenario, what will happen is, if you have an object which is placed at a certain height, okay, then if the object is given a horizontal velocity u, then how is it going to travel and what are all the parameters you can calculate from it? Okay. So if you observe, how is the object going to travel? Due to this initial velocity, it will try to have a motion in the horizontal direction. But due to the acceleration due to gravity, it will have a vertical motion. So what will happen to this particle is, it will neither be able to completely move along x direction nor along y direction. So it will have a combined motion, which is going to produce the similar kind of a path, which is a parabola. So it is still going to be a parabola. Okay. Now the only difference is, in the previous case, we calculated the maximum height. Here, there is no concept of maximum height, because we know the height from which the object is already dropped, right, or pushed. So what we need to calculate here is, what is going to be the range and how much time does it take for the particle to travel from the top to the bottom. Is that point clear? So these are the two things that we need to calculate. Okay. Now see, if I take the horizontal direction into consideration, then what is going to be the initial velocity along x direction? It will be u. What is the initial velocity along y direction? It is 0, because the object is given initial velocity only in this direction. You didn't put it like this. You gave the velocity only in the horizontal direction, right? Similarly,
what is going to be the acceleration of the particle along x direction? So wait. I'll prepare a chart. So small correction here. If I take the horizontal and vertical, what is the initial velocity along x direction? So u along x direction is going to be u only. And u along y direction is going to be a 0 because the object is thrown horizontally, not vertically. Okay. Similarly, what is going to be the acceleration? What is the acceleration along the x direction? It is 0, whereas the acceleration along y direction will be g. But the question is, we are going to follow the sign convention. So if you're going to take this point itself as the origin, this is going to be x-axis, this will be y-axis. So I'm taking this point as the origin, this x-axis, y-axis. So if this is origin with respect to it, what will this be? Negative y-axis. So you need to put a minus g. Am I clear with this? Okay. Now the next question is, how much time does it take for the particle to travel from point O to point A? That is called as the time of flight. So what is time of flight? Time taken to travel from where to where? Time taken to travel from O to A is going to be the time of flight. What is R? It is the horizontal range. Right. Now tell me, how do I calculate the time of flight in this scenario? Let's say this object is projected from a height h. How much time will it take for the particle to travel from point O to point A? So to calculate time of flight, okay, let's not look at it like a derivation. Let's say there is a problem of this sort given to you. How will you think? How will you think? What is going to be the time of flight here? For that, you can use the formula S is equal to ut plus half at square along y direction. So what is the displacement of the particle along y direction? Minus h, because displacement is downward. The length is h and the direction gives it a minus sign. What is the initial velocity of the object along y direction? 0. So 0 into t plus half into what is the acceleration along y direction? It is minus g into the time is going to be the time of flight square. Right. So what is going to be the formula for time of flight here? It is going to be 2h by g under a root. So basically what happens is this minus and this, see this is 0. So this minus and this minus will get cancelled. This 2 will go to the other side as a multiplication factor. It will become 2h. G will come to the denominator, right? So it will become 2h by g. But what is 2h by g? It is time of flight square. But what do we need? We need only the time of flight. So when you take square root on both the sides, it comes out to be square root of 2h divided by g. Actually, whenever you take a square root, you need to take a plus or minus. But generally for time, we don't take the minus sign into consideration. That is why answer is going to be root of 2h divided by g. Is that clear? Make a note of this. Shall I proceed? So listen. Now our next job is to find the horizontal range. So to find the range, what we will do is we'll apply the same formula. S is equal to ut plus half at square, where you apply this formula along x direction. So what is the displacement of the particle along x direction? From here till here, if you look at the horizontal displacement, what is the horizontal displacement? It is r. Okay. This is going to be equal to, what is the value of ux? U. And how much time does it take for the particle to travel from O to A? It is going to take root of 2h by g. So root of 2h divided by g plus what is the acceleration of the particle along x direction? It's a 0. So range is going to be equal to u into root of 2h divided by g. Clear? So these are the two mathematical equations that are related to a projectile given horizontal projection. Is that clear? What else is there? Shall I proceed? Yeah. See, now what I'll do is, when you project the particle horizontally, it is traveling in a parabolic path and covering a horizontal distance of how much value? U into root of 2h divided by g. Right. Now, what we will do is to understand the equation of motion and to understand the equation of a projectile and its application, we'll apply that concept here and derive the expression and see. Observe what I'm going to do. I'm going to apply the equation of projectile. In the previous case, what did I do? I applied the equation of, these two are the equation of motion, right? Whereas now what I'm applying is the equation of a projectile. So what is the equation of a projectile? Y is equal to x tan theta minus gx square divided by 2u square cos square theta. See, this expression itself is derived using the sign convention. Now, all that we need to do to apply it is, you need to apply the proper coordinate system to it. In the sense, you need to use coordinate geometry because it is dependent only on x and y. For that, what I'm going to do is, I will take this point as the origin. So I'll take this point as the origin. When I do this, here it is going to be x-axis, this is going to be y-axis. Okay, so this will be 0, 0. Right. Now use your basic coordinate geometry sense and tell me what is going to be this coordinate. So it is going to be 0, minus h. It is going to be 0, minus h. What is going to be the position of this particle? Sorry, correction here. What is going to be the coordinate of this point? So if I take this to be the range, if I take this distance to be r, then it will be r, minus h. because from the origin along the x direction it is at a distance r. Along the y direction it is at a distance h, but with a negative sign. So it will be r comma minus h. So what I will do is I will take this and substitute it here. Why? Because whenever you take any kind of a curve, if there is a point on that curve, it satisfies the equation. So what are all the points on the curve? Points on the curve, that is a parabola here. What are the points that you are able to see on the parabola? One is 0, 0, and one is r comma minus h. So take this r comma, so 0, 0 will satisfy it. So substitute and see, when you put x is equal to 0, this is 0, this is 0, y is also 0. It satisfies. Now we will substitute r comma minus h and see. R comma minus h satisfies the equation, right? So if I take r comma minus h and substitute, y is equal to minus h. In the place of x, what should I substitute? R into tan of, how much is the angle of projection there? So here tan theta is there. Now what is that theta? Theta is the angle made by the initial velocity of the projectile with respect to horizontal. In this case, what is the initial velocity made with respect to horizontal? 0. So I will substitute 0 here. Minus g into, what is the value of x? R. So g into r square divided by 2 u square cos square 0. Now what is tan 0? It's a 0. So what is that you have? Minus h is equal to, it is minus g r square divided by 2u square, because cos 0 is 1. So cos square 0 is also 1. So minus and minus will get cancelled. R square is equal to how much? 2u square divided by h, which implies r is equal to square root of this. Square root of 2 by h is square root of 2 by h. 1 minute, correction. It is g. So correction. So r square will be equal to 2u square into h divided by g, which implies r is equal to square root of u square is u, and 2h by g falls under the square root. And this is the expression we derived in the previous case as well. So you're able to understand. So whether you are going to use physics or mathematics, right, it is going to generate the same answer. So did you get some perspective of how to use this? What is that we are supposed to do? We need to take the coordinates on that curve and substitute it in the place of x and y in which equation? In the equation of projectile. So it is important that you remember this equation. Is it clear? Okay. So make a note. Stand bag just turn it anti-clockwise. In the part, third leg, left light left through. One side clockwise. ಇನ್ನು ತಿರು 0 degree ಆಮಟ it's 0 degree. Clear? Okay. Shall I proceed? You are going to do this problem. Read it. So draw a proper diagram, you will get the answer. Clear with this? So what is the answer? You already have a formula in your hand. Time of flight is equal to root of 2h by g. So square root of 2 into h is how much? 490. G is how much? You can take 9.8 because 490 is a multiple of 9.8. So 9.8 into 5 is 49. So it will become 50. 50 into 200. Answer is 10. So how many of you got 10 seconds? That alone I'll do it. You will not. I'm not sure. If you know, try and see. தெரியல. அதுக்கு என்ன பண்ணனும்னா you need to find both the components. ஐடியா தர ட்ரை பண்ணி பாரு. Apply v is equal to u plus 80 along x direction and y direction and find out vx and vy. Okay, you try and see. If you don't get, you can look at the board. Okay. See, for those who didn't understand, concentrate. So the question says, a hiker stands on the edge of a cliff which is 490 meter above the ground. Right? Which is 490 meter above the ground. From here, there is a stone which is projected at a speed of 15 meter per second. Right? Now it is going to go and fall here. Right? It is going to, let's say, hit this point A. Okay. Now there is some amount of time it takes to travel. What is going to be the time? The time of flight is going to be square root of 2h divided by g. Right? So this is equal to root of 2 into what is the value of h? It is 490 divided by 9.8. So 9.8 will cancel this 490 50 times. 50 into 2 is going to be 100 and it is going to be square root of 100 or 10 seconds. So it takes 10 seconds for the object to travel from point O to A. I hope that point is clear. Right. The second point is find the speed. Here, if you observe, the question is very clear. They're not asking the velocity. Find the speed with which it hits the ground. Basically, what does speed mean? Speed is the magnitude of velocity. Always remember, whenever you have a one-dimensional motion, it is easy for you to calculate the velocity. If you calculate one velocity, that is going to be the velocity corresponding to that particular direction. Here, what is happening is the object is not in one-dimensional motion, it is rather in a two-dimensional motion, right? So when you talk about two-dimensional motion, aren't you going to have two velocities? That is, you're going to have Vx and Vy. Let me explain what it is. Okay. So when this particle is coming and hitting the floor, right, or the ground, the velocity is going to be in this direction. Right. The velocity will be in this direction. If you observe, this direction is neither aligned along y direction or x direction. It will be somewhere between. As a result of which, this velocity can be resolved into velocity along y direction and it can be resolved into velocity along x direction. And that is what this Vx and Vy mean. Am I clear with this? Right? So if you observe, to find this Vx, we are going to apply the formula Ux plus Ax into T. Right. In this scenario, what is the value of Ux? Which implies Vx is equal to, what is the initial velocity given along the x direction? 15. So it is going to be 15 plus what is the acceleration of the particle along x direction? It is 0. So answer is going to be 15 meter per second. Meaning the horizontal velocity is still going to be the same. So one thing you need to remember in projectile motion, which I've told in the case of oblique projection as well. Whenever there is an object traveling in the parabolic path, the horizontal velocity is always a constant. The reason for horizontal velocity being constant is because the object is neither accelerating or decelerating. When can an object accelerate or decelerate? Only when its velocity is going to change in that particular direction. There is no acceleration in x direction itself. Then its velocity is going to be a constant. That is why you need not actually calculate or write this equation. You can directly tell that Vx is going to be 15. Is it clear? Whereas Vy will keep changing. Why is it so? Because it is accelerating. Now tell me one thing. What is the initial velocity of the particle along y direction? 0. But do you think it is going, the velocity along y direction here is also going to be 0? It will be less than 0 or more than 0? So think and tell me. Is the velocity at this point going to be less than 0 or greater than 0? Less than 0 in the sense you're using the sign convention. When the object is traveling down, is it going against gravity? Minus g is only the sign convention. So the velocity of the particle at this point will be greater than 0 only. So in terms of magnitude, it will be greater than 0, but the sign will be negative. Are you able to understand? Sign is negative. So here, g being negative means it doesn't mean that the acceleration due to gravity is actually negative. Acceleration due to gravity is negative because we considered the sign convention to be like that. Okay. So Vy is going to be equal to Uy plus Ay into T. So what is going to be the value of Vy? Sorry. Uy is 0 plus acceleration due to gravity is minus 9.8 into time is 10. So answer will be minus 98 meter per second. Here minus sign indicates that the velocity is in the downward direction. That is the indication. Okay. Now, whenever you take this Vx to be like this and Vy to be in the downward direction, observe what you're supposed to do is, whenever you have a vector like this, x, or I'll call it as Vx and Vy, then the resultant will always be a diagonal that is passing through the common intersection of these two. That's what we call it as parallelogram law of vectors. So for parallelogram law of vectors, the resultant is calculated using the formula root of Vx square plus Vy square plus 2 times Vx Vy cos theta, where theta is going to be the angle between those two vectors. Okay. So if you know this, fine, or else make a note of this. Okay. So what you're supposed to do is, whenever you have one vector like this and another vector like this, and if the angle between the vectors is going to be theta, then you calculate the resultant C. Then how is C given as? C is equal to root of A square plus B square plus 2 times AB cos theta. Okay, this will be the concept of parallelogram law of vectors. Okay, make a note of this. It's called parallelogram law of vectors. Okay. So using the same logic here, if you observe, we calculated Vx to be equal to how much? 15 meter per second. Vy was calculated to be minus 98 meter per second. You can forget this minus because I've already taken the arrow mark in the downward direction. So these two are the vectors which are acting at a point. So what is going to be the velocity here? V will be equal to square root of Vx square plus 2 times Vx Vy cos of 90. Because what is the angle between Vx and Vy? 90. So you need to take it to be cos 90. Cos 90 is a 0. So basically what you will have is, you will have root of Vx square plus Vy square, which is root of 15 square, which is 225 plus 98 square. Okay. So how much is 98 square? (96) or 98? 98, no? So 100 minus 2 the whole square. So it is going to be 10,000 minus 4, sorry, plus 4 minus 400. Whichever is easy, you can do it. Sorry. Square root of 225 plus 9. 9640. 9604. So how much? Square root of 9,000. 830. So square root of 9,829. So the answer should be somewhere around 99 point something. It's closer to 10,000. No? It's greater than 98 square, less than 100 square. So it will be somewhere around 98 or 99 point something. Okay. So that is going to be the speed with which it is going to come and hit the ground. So the square root of 98, square root of 9,829 is going to be 99.1 meter per second. So this is the speed with which it is going to come and hit. So when I say speed, this is going to be the resultant of both x velocity and velocity in the y direction. So you took the parallelogram law of vectors to find the resultant speed. I hope it is clear, right? So can you just summarize what we are supposed to do in this problem? So whenever they give you a problem based on horizontal projectile motion, right? What are the parameters they can ask you? One is they can ask you time of flight. So time of flight, the direct formula is square root of 2h by g. They can ask you the range. So range is what? Basically horizontal velocity multiplied with time of flight. U into square root of 2h by g. No. So square root of 2h by g is time of flight. Multiply that with the initial velocity along horizontal direction. That will be the range. And the third type of question that they can ask you is find the velocity of the particle when it is. They can ask you the question multiple ways. What is the horizontal velocity of the particle when it is hitting the ground? The answer is 15. What is the vertical velocity of the particle when it is hitting the ground? It is 98. So what is the speed with which it is hitting the ground? It is a resultant of both Vx and Vy, that is 99.1. Apart from that, they can ask you what is the velocity of the particle anywhere on this journey also. If they ask you, all that they need to give you in the problem is what is the time at which they are expecting the speed. Because you are still going to apply the same formula of Vx and Vy. Same logic will work. Vx is equal to ux plus kx into t, where in the first equation, ax will be 0. In the second equation, uy will be 0. But in both the expressions, the needed value is time. So you just substitute it and apply the same formula of root of Vx square plus Vy square. That is going to give you the speed of the particle at any instant. It need not be only with the speed with which it is hitting the ground. It can be at any instant. Okay. Suppose they ask at any instant, the only difference is going to be, see, at this point, you need to draw a tangent. So this is going to be the velocity of the particle at that instant. This is the resultant velocity. Okay, let me call this as VR. Right? This VR can be resolved into X component and it can be resolved into Y component. So what will it be? It will be Vx dash and this will be Vy dash. Are you able to understand this? Right. So for you to find the value of VR, what is that you're supposed to do? Root of Vx dash square plus Vy dash square. So what is the value of Vx dash? Even without calculating, you can tell what is it? 15. It's just 15. Vx dash, Vx double dash, Vx triple dash, whatever it is along horizontal, it is 15. Only along vertical, it will change because it is dependent on time. With time, it keeps changing. Is that point clear? I hope you got a grip of how to solve, right? This is actually your NCERT problem. This is an example problem from your textbook. Okay, so you can expect this question. So mark it as important. Okay. Next. You solve this problem. So in this case, again, they are asking the velocity, no? This velocity is the resultant velocity only. Okay. Because if they mention along horizontal or vertical, they specify it. If they ask what is the velocity with which it is hitting the ground, you need to find the resultant. Okay, having said that, solve this and show. Solve. You know the answer. Solve it. What is the time of flight? Time of flight is fixed. It's 10 seconds. What about the horizontal range? Hello? It is 980, almost a kilometer. Yeah. Then? The velocity with which the projectile hits the ground. Vx is how much? Vy is 98. 98 hour. So 2 root 98. So it'd be 19 point something. And square root of 98 is there, no? Square root of 98 approximated to 100, no? Square root of 100 is 10. So 2 into 10, 20. It should be less than 20. It will be 19 point something. Other 2 root 98. So 98 you can write it as 49 into 2. So it is 7 root 2. So 2 into 7, 14, 14 into root 2. 14 into root 2 is 1.4. 14 into 1.4 is the answer. Actually 19.64. And 14 into 14 is 196. So 1 decimal to the left. Write and see, you will get the answer. 19.6 is the answer. Fourteen squares. You're doing 1.41, no? Shall I do this and show? Okay. See. Observe. A projectile is fired. A projectile is fired horizontally with a velocity of 98 meter per second from the top of a hill, which is 490 meter high. So what is the speed given? It is 98 meter per second and the direction is horizontal. So what is going to be the path taken by the particle? It is still going to be a parabola. Right? It is going to be a parabolic path like this. Now, what is the time of flight of this particle? It is going to be square root of 2h divided by g. So how much will this be? Square root of 2 into 490 divided by g is going to be, so this will cancel this, 50 times 50 into 2 is going to be 100, so it will be 10 seconds. Okay. Now what is the formula for range? R is equal to u into time of flight or u into root of 2h by g. So u is how much? 98 into the time taken is 10. Answer will be 980 meters. So this distance is going to be 980 meter. Am I right? No. The velocity with which the projectile is hitting the ground. So at this point, let's say the velocity is like this. It can be resolved into two components. One is along Vx and the other is along the y direction, which is going to be Vy. So what is the value of Vx? Vx is going to be Ux itself, which is 98 meter per second. What about Vy? So Vy is equal to Uy plus Ay into t. What is the value of Uy? 0. For horizontal projectile motion, initial velocity along y direction is 0. What is the acceleration? It is minus 9.8 into what is the time of flight? 10. Answer will be minus 98 meter per second. Right? So the velocity of the particle at the bottommost point is going to be root of Vx square plus Vy square, where both the values are 98 only. So you will have square root of 98 square plus 98 square, which is going to be square root of 2 into 98 square, which will be, how am I getting a different one? Oh, we did a mistake then. It's not 19.6, no then. That's what I'm saying. So we told in the reverse, it is actually 98 root 2. We told root 2 98. Sorry, 2 root 98 is what we told. That is wrong. Okay. So here the question is about Vx square plus Vy square is 98 square plus 98 square. It is going to be root of 2 times 98 square. So 98 square will come out of the square root as 90. It will come out as 98 into root 2. Right? So 98 root 2 meter per second is going to be the answer. Okay, that is the speed with which it is going to hit the ground. See, obviously it can't be 19.6 because the horizontal velocity itself is 98. It is going to be the same velocity here. When the horizontal velocity itself is 98, how can this pull it down to 19.6? So that's not possible. We didn't think of it. Okay. But you got, now you understood, it will be greater than 98 only for sure. Okay. So one important observation that you need to make from this is, if you observe the time of flight, it is 10 seconds. And what is the horizontal velocity given to the particle? It is 98 meter per second. So what is the height from which it is thrown? 490 meter per second. Have these values in mind. What is the horizontal velocity here? 15 meter per second. And the height from which it is thrown is 490. So in both the questions, the height is to be specific, it is depth. The depth is 490 only. The velocity here is 15 meter per second. There it is 98 meter per second. Still, the object is going to take the same amount of time to reach the floor. Right? Big mystery, no? Are you able to understand what is happening here? Right? What is happening? When you project a particle horizontally from the same height with whatever velocity you want, right? Even if you give greater velocity or lesser velocity, the thing is time of flight is going to be the same. Shall we validate and see? But I need an object to be thrown. Let me check if I have any. Let's see. I need the objects to be similar. I got 2 cups, but இது fan off பண்ணி try பண்ணி பாக்க. என்ன பண்ற கேமராமேன் பா? 2% charge இருக்கு. Wait. So what you do, you record it in slow motion. Let's see if it is working. Try பண்ணி பார்க்கலாம். Right? See, let's keep it here in the direction. Focus on the object. அவங்களுக்கு தெரியட்டும். கொஞ்சம் பின்னாடி போயிடுறேன். உட்காந்துக்கோங்க. ஆக்சுவலாக உட்காந்து எடுத்துக்கோ. You sit in your place. See, one thing here when we are doing this activity, these cups are of lightweight. Like there is some amount of air resistance that is present. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I'll try to project both. You start panadra. I'll try to project both with different velocities at the same instant. Let's see if they both are reaching the ground with the same at the same instant. Shall we try? 1, 2, 3. Capture acha. சரி இன்னொரு வாட்டி பண்ணலாம். அதனால தான் ஸ்லோ மோல பண்ண சொன்னேன். ஏன்னா it is difficult to capture. அது ஆன் பண்ணிட்டியா? 1, 2, 3. கேப்சர் ஆயிடுச்சா? ஃபர்ஸ்ட் நம்பர் செக் பண்ணலாம் கரெக்டா இருக்கா இல்லையா? Almost. இவர் ஸ்டைலா இருக்கு. இது எப்படி காட்டுறது நானு? How do I project it and show? Let's see.
Wait, let me do one thing. What happened here? Hmm. 1 minute, கொஞ்சம் டெக்னாலஜி இஷ்யூஸ் முடிஞ்சிருச்சு. Yeah. Ananya, are you able to see?
No, sir.
Okay, listen. Now,
Yeah, now I understand.
so now let's play and see how it's working. Got captured for 34 seconds. Almost. So did you observe? So what is happening? From this height, right? The objects are projected with different velocity, right? They're projected with different velocity. So what is happening is they are almost hitting the surface at the same instant. So why do you think there is a minor difference there? So because of the air resistance and it is of lightweight, no? And see, one point to be observed here is there's not a complete solid. When I hit it, it starts bending like this. So it takes in some air, due to which it experiences some air resistance depending on what speed I gave to it. Okay. If you throw a tennis ball or something, if you take 2 tennis balls, just try to push them at the same, from the same height with different velocities and see, record it in slow motion and check, it will go and hit the floor at exactly at the same instant. Theory should work. I mean, the theory should work in the practicals as well. Are you able to understand what is the meaning? So there is an important point to be taken from here. What is it? What is the important point to be considered? Irrespective of the horizontal velocity, the depth kept the same. There are two things that are going to be the same. What is it? One is the velocity. Which velocity? The horizontal velocity will be the same in the horizontal projected motion. And the second thing is the time of flight. It will be the same. Okay. We should have tried with the solid and see. Am I clear with this? Right. So maybe we can try one last problem. You can do it on your own. So you calculate only the first part, second part you will not be able to do as of now. You calculate only the first part.
So what is the answer for height? So time of flight is 3 seconds. 3 is equal to root of 2h by g. 9. G, they told 9.8. So 9 into 9.8 divided by 2. 9 into 4.9 is what you'll get. Basically 9 to 5, 45 would come here. 44 point. I think 44.1 is correct. 9 into 4.9 or 9 9s is 81. Calculate upon here. Okay. So basically, you're going to apply the same formula. T is equal to root of 2h by g. What is the time of flight? 3 seconds. Root of 2 into h is what you need to find. G is 9.8. All the parameters are known except one equation, one unknown. Solve for it. We get the answer. Right. So how much did you get? 44.1. Okay, that's right. See, speed alone, you cannot do it as of now. That I'll explain it in the next class. So this will be the last problem for this chapter. With this, we are done. Okay, projectile motion is over. Secondly, I've actually taught things that are outside your textbook. I'll tell you what are all the concepts I've actually taught separately. One is writing the equation of projectile in terms of range. That's not a part of your textbook. Okay. Secondly, this horizontal projectile motion, they would have directly given you the problem, but not the concept. The time of flight is not given as a formula. It is actually given as a problem. The first problem I showed you, that 15 meters per second. That is the first thing that they have given. Okay, so these two have been taught as concepts. So make a note of these points. Is that clear? So I hope you could understand this one. Only thing is, I suggest you people to revise vectors part again, which is already there in the app. In that, I'll tell you what are all the important concepts you need to go through. One is go through the concept of triangle law of addition and go through the concept of parallelogram law of vectors. Okay, these two are very important. And this is the one I used in the previous case, root of a square plus b square plus 2ab cos theta, where theta is angle between a vector and b vector. I hope it is clear, no? So these two are very important. Apart from this, there is also another concept which I have taught, which is called as the dot and cross product. See, dot product and cross product are important. Dot product is important for 6th chapter. When we start work, energy and power, there it is important. And cross product is important for the 7th chapter. Okay. So make sure you know all these things. If you have any doubts, reach out. Okay. So that's it for today from my side. Any other questions? Any other questions? All clear? Okay. So then we'll wind up. Those who are there for math, you just take a break for 10 minutes. It's almost done, Ra. You yourself are going to do. There is nothing for me to teach. Another waste of time actually. I'll problem or tougher. The one which I solved yesterday, was it not easy? Ananya, you can wind up.